Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question, and I'm going to flip it in right here. This is going to be a really complicated answer because this is some things you can do on your own, and some of this you're going to require actual professional help. You're going to require actual medical help, and you're not going to be able to do this on your own or just from YouTube advice. But he basically wants to know what sort of nutrition plan and training program I recommend for recovering anorexics, and what do they do when they still don't have any appetite. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing. Let's do a little bit of crafting and let's talk about it. All right, complicated topic, and it's one that you do see covered a bit on YouTube and quite a bit online, because I know of several recovering anorexics who put out information, but the problem I see is that they're not fully recovered. Therefore, I'm not so sure their advice is always going to be the best. I see some of them relapsing who are giving people advice. So again, if they're relapsing, this is a problem. People are going to them for advice. All right, first of all, if you're a recovering anorexic or you suffer from anorexia or any major eating disorder, you need professional help. You need probably a psychiatrist and or a dietitian. And if you're not getting a registered dietitian or a psychologist helping you, the odds of being successful in treating your anorexia are not in your favor. All right, this is really a problem. You need professional help. And if you don't get that, this struggle is going to be 10 times harder. And relapsing is going to be a much bigger problem for you. Now, what I'm going to recommend in a minute, and I'm going to recommend this guy for a minute because of one of the other problems. And you say appetite, there's two problems. I've known anorexics over the years. I've known bulimics over the years. And the problem, if you say you don't have an appetite but you're underweight, you have a real problem here. And the reason is your body absolutely has an appetite. Your brain is hungry. You're convincing yourself that you're not hungry, either because you still have a psychological hang-up that you're just suppressing the feeling even though you're actually ravenous, in which case only a psychiatrist can help, or you are using appetite-suppressing drugs still. And that's one of the biggest problems with anorexics. Over 50% of anorexics I have known of all have something in common. They abuse drugs. Addiction becomes part of it because they know they're hungry. Everyone knows that when they're starving and you're underweight, you are hungry all the time, whether you can admit it or not. If you tell yourself you're not, you are hungry. If you don't get hungry, then you probably have a major genetic problem, because that's normal for human beings. There's something wrong with you if you don't get hungry, medically or genetically. So there's an issue. You're not a normal person. Now, that being said, drug addiction. And a lot of guys are like, well, I only just take a little Adderall still. Well, that's your problem, and that's another big problem. That's where your psychiatrist and your dietitian have to work together. If you're being prescribed Adderall and you're a recovering anorexic, there's a major conflict there, because Adderall is oftentimes used to suppress appetite by people who want to lose weight. Well, if you're not hungry and you're struggling to regain weight, your Adderall is part of your problem. Now, other drugs I've known of people who use crystal meth, cocaine. Those are two of the biggest ones that I have seen anorexics use to suppress their appetite. Incidentally, I also have known a lot of bodybuilders who do the exact same thing for cutting. Adderall, crystal meth, cocaine. Those are they're one of their three go-to drugs usually, because they want to get ripped, and it's too hard when you train a lot to not have a big appetite. If you've eaten enough to get big muscles and get a high body weight while being physically active, you will struggle with appetite when you cut. That's one of the go-tos, is to use one of those three drugs that a lot of competitive bodybuilders do. Now, I'm going to recommend an expert out there named David A. Weiss. That's spelled W-I-S-S. He's out on the West Coast. He specializes in treating eating disorders and drug recovery, like a drug addiction. And he specializes in those two areas, and there's a lot of overlap there. So if you're looking for resources and information on dealing with that combination of things in particular, or you're recovering from anorexia and struggling with appetite issues, I would recommend him. He's easy enough to find, David A. Weiss, W-I-S-S. Go check him out. Probably has a lot of valuable resources for you, or contact him maybe if you're looking to hire an expert, because you're going to need one. Now, that being said, diet. First thing I'm going to recommend, recovering anorexics do not need to follow a restricted diet. If you do something like become a vegan or vegetarian when you're a recovering anorexic, that's really stupid. That's a really bad idea. Or you say, I'm going to follow a paleo diet or a ketogenic diet, the other extreme. All right, so I'm not just picking on one group. Any extremely restrictive diet that avoids major food groups that could lead to certain nutritional deficiencies, bad idea. Do not do a ketogenic diet, a paleo diet, a vegan diet, or a vegetarian diet if you're anorexic. I don't give a shit how you feel about the fucking animals. You're going to die from your anorexia. The last thing you need to do is kill yourself because you're claiming it's for the animals, because it's not. Let's be honest here. If you become one of these things, if you become a vegan because you're recovering from anorexia, that is one of the biggest vehicles to mask your eating disorder. I don't want to hear that bullshit that, oh, I do it because I love the animals. No, you're doing it because you want to fucking die. Because you want to have an excuse to restrict what you eat and starve to fucking death. All right? That's bullshit. No restrictive diets. That needs to go out the window right there. Automatically. Any diet that eliminates entire major food groups that are considered healthy by most dietitians. So if it tells you no starches, sorry, get rid of it. You're gone. That's done. If it tells you no meat, that's it. You're done. Throw it away. You have no place for major restrictions like that registered dietitians say as a food group are usually okay and healthy. Which things like starches, grains, meat, stuff like that, needs to go out the door. You need to be focusing on gaining weight. If you have a single month as a recovering anorexic in which you do not gain at least 1 pound on the scale, every single month, if you stagnate for a full month, I'm going to say you probably need to go to your therapist and you need inpatient care. They need to stick a feeding tube down your throat and put you in a hospital. All right? You have no business not gaining weight. Any month in which you do not gain 1 pound as a recovering anorexic is considered a failure, and you should probably check yourself in for inpatient therapy. This is not a joke. Weight gain is important. It doesn't have to be large amounts, but you need to be seeing a positive general upward trend, or you are going to die. It's that simple. The scale's not moving up, you need inpatient therapy, and they probably need to put you on a feeding tube. And that's what anorexics don't want to hear, but that's the truth. Now, that being said, your other big problem, training, you're not going to gain muscle at the same rate a healthy person is. That's unfortunate. People say, really, even with the anabolic rebound? I mean, aren't I going to get a rebound? No, because you've damaged the anabolic hormones in your body. You've depleted your body to the point to where you're going to struggle to gain muscle as fast. You might gain muscle at half the rate a normal noob would. Even though you've lost muscle, it's going to take a while to regain it, and that's unfortunate. What I would recommend, follow something like my linear hypertrophy program. Do not run my novice 5x5. I think it's too aggressive for a recovering anorexic. My linear hypertrophy program, it's in my free programs playlist. You can find it over on the side of the channel. Run that. However, if you're struggling with the progression on it, because again, you're going to gain muscle a little slower, cut the progression in half. Any point where you're supposed to add X amount of weight, add half of that amount. As long as you're seeing a general upward trend on the weights, on all your barbell movements, you're gaining muscle. Gaining muscle needs to be your top priority. Regaining muscle, regaining metabolism. And I'm not saying metabolic damage is real, because it really isn't, but you can have metabolic slowdown in the short term that can be recovered. You recover that by eating more carbohydrates. And I mean, if you're gaining weight and you're eating more carbohydrates and you're weightlifting, your metabolism is going to come back up. That's an important point. You need to have your metabolism coming back up. You need to be bringing your T3 levels back up. You need to be bringing your testosterone levels back up. That's going to happen by gaining weight, increasing carbohydrate intake, and putting more weight on the bar in the weight room. Now, that being said, cardio. Recovering anorexics need to be avoiding high-intensity cardio unless it's for a sport. And you know what? If you're a recovering anorexic, you're probably not going to be able to play any sport seriously anyways. Things like HIIT cardio, interval training, out the door. Those are weight loss tools. If you want to do some list cardio for your general health, 30 minutes a day, hey, fantastic. 30 minutes of brisk walking, cycling, light jogging, okay, that's fine. No problem, do that. However, going and doing 2 hours of list cardio a day because, oh, well, it's great for my endurance. No. You're a recovering anorexic. Your body is not ready to increase dramatically at anything, except maybe gaining some muscle mass. So again, your cardio needs to be for general health. People who are going and doing 2 hours of cardio again a day, even though it's low intensity, it's recovering anorexic, you probably need inpatient therapy. If you find yourself doing that, you're not mentally healthy enough to be making your own decisions anymore. If you're doing silly stuff like that, keep that in mind. Put that in check. 30 minutes of LISS cardio, low activity cardio every day. Nothing high intensity, no interval training, no Tabata. Your increasing intensity of any training needs to be purely in the weight room. It needs to be on those barbell movements that are going to put muscle back on you, because regaining muscle mass as a recovering anorexic and regaining healthy amounts of body weight is your number one priority. Weight training is going to put muscle back on you. Weight training combined with increasing your carbs and increasing your calories. That's what you need to be focusing upon. Progressive resistance on a fairly moderate volume weight training. No really high volume training. You're not trying to lose weight again. No high intensity cardio. No 2 hours of LISS a day. Heavy barbell work with 30 minutes of light cardio every day, focusing on progressive overload in the gym and watching the scale come back up in a positive manner. That needs to be the focus of a recovering anorexic. So to recap it, you need to be working with probably a therapist and or a registered dietitian, and I've recommended someone to you to give you a resource and other links. You need to be focusing on positive weight gain. No restrictive diets, even for ethical purposes. Again, you got to pick right there. Do you care about the animals or yourself? And if you care about the animals more than yourself, well, fuck it. Probably not worth surviving anyways. You're weak, and you're probably not useful to the species anyways. I hate to be a dick, but let's be realistic here. You guys know when you follow these restrictive diets, it's about killing yourself. That's the only reason you do them, because you're relapsing back into your anorexia. Restrictive diets that take out healthy food groups need to go away. All right? You don't want to hear about ethics. Don't want to hear about free range. You need to be eating. Worry about the ethics once you've ensured your own survival and your own health. Then you can go worry about that stuff. It needs to be non-existent in your mind. Saving your own life, it should always be your top priority. Then you worry about other things and other people and animals and how ethically your food was obtained. Worry about that after you ensure your own survival. Progressive overload in the gym, increasing slowly on your heavy barbell movements, bringing up carbohydrate intake, and gradual healthy weight increase. That needs to be the focus of what you are doing as a recovering anorexic. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.